to know the name, know the genius in you, where in a single moment you can recognize your brilliance and change your life. This is a transformational hour that covers an array of topics that demonstrate how individuals use their native talents, as shown in their name, to look at the ordinary in extraordinary ways. Now, Albert Einstein once said that everybody's a genius. Why would one of the smartest people on the planet declare that everyone is a genius unless he knew that to be true? I'm your host, Sharon Lynn Wyeth, creator of Namology Science and author of Know the Name, Know the Person. In every weekly show, you hear the fascinating ways other people have discovered the genius in themselves and what they were able to accomplish. At the end of tonight's show, you'll hear clues on how you can recognize your own innate genius. Now, all over the world, people want to know how highly successful people have managed to achieve their genius mindset as they utilize the gifts that the science of namology sees in their name. So how does someone express their creative talents? How does someone share those gifts with others in such a way that everybody benefits? Our expert tonight is Anthony Treas, who has an amazing track record for his ability for eliminating anxiety. Now, I used to think anxiety was always just fear of the future, but it seems to be affecting more and more people and even young kids in the classroom. It's amazing how many today are afraid or have anxiety. Now, Anthony Treas is an Iraq war veteran. He's on a mission to radically change men's well-being, but while he's at it, we can change a few women's well-being also. His mission in Iraq was to provide personal security for U.S. generals and other government officials. Now his mission is to help others reclaim their well-being, their sense of adventure, and their purpose. And upon his return home, Anthony struggled with PTSD, anxiety, and depression. So desperately wanting to improve his condition, he set out to rebuild his physical state and his well-being. With 7 years of experience, research, study, and education, he developed the S.T.R.O.N.G method. Now that's an acronym, so it's S period, T period, R period, etc. The S.T.R.O.N.G method, a proven step-by-step process that his clients use to eliminate anxiety so that they can regain control over their physical and mental well-being. Now, for legal reasons, we're not going to be giving any health advice tonight, but we are going to explore how Anthony learned to reduce his stress levels and how he realized after sharing his techniques that his techniques worked for other people also. It wasn't just a fluke that it worked for him. Now, I have found Anthony to be a man of great character who has a strong desire to live life to the very fullest and who is very passionate about helping others by reshifting their own mindsets. So, Anthony, I'm just so pleased you're able to join us tonight. Welcome to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You.
Thank you, Sharon. It is an absolute, I'm just excited. I'm very excited to be here with you. Great to have met you and have connected with you and to be here tonight with you.
Well, okay, we're also curious right away, Anthony. So what does your acronym S.T.R.O.N.G stand for, the S.T.R.O.N.G?
Yeah, to kind of, in a brief way to explain it very briefly, is the S stands for, you got to start with your mind, your brain. And so the S, that's what the S stands for, is you got to start whenever you're wanting to change something in your life. You got to start with your mind, your brain. And it's really that programming that we have in us already after however many years we've been around, that programming that we have. And so when you want to change something, you really got to take in consideration your brain and your mindset. So the T, going on with the T stands for you got to be totally committed to this change because it is going to take time. It's not something that happens overnight. And oftentimes with people with anxiety, we want things to change overnight. And yes, we can get relief from anxiety almost instantly in times, but for long-term life change, we got to be totally committed. The R stands for, and many people, and I'm really kind of looking at trying to change this one, but we got to take 100% responsibility for our current state and mental well-being. When we start to take that owner, because really what responsibility is ownership. And when we begin to take ownership, we then have the power, and that's what we all have. We have that power to change our life. The O stands for optimizing your environment. Your environment is so pivotal to any change and also in anxiety relief. Everything you choose on a daily basis is as a result of the environment that you are in. Whatever foods you eat, whatever you think or don't do or do, is because of your environment. The N stands for never giving up. Unfortunately, we don't always achieve success on our first attempt. And so there are going to be some learning lessons along the way. And just to accept that and to never give up on what you ultimately want in your life.
Anthony, in that N and never giving up, I was just reading an article today by a scientist, and he was saying how many days it takes to change what. And if you can change a habit for 90 days, it's a permanent
Yes.
habit. That's what it takes.
Yes.
All right, keep
Great.
going.
Yeah,
Keep going.
and the G is to gut check your progress. When we're trying to make these changes in our life, we got to go back to, are we taking into consideration our brain? Because your brain, and we can talk about this a little more, is going to want to keep you right where you're at. The brain is meant to help us to do many things, but one of those things is to keep us alive, and it doesn't want to work any more than it has to. And so gut checking your progress is just an opportunity for you to be honest with yourself in, are you totally committed? Are you taking full responsibility? Are you optimizing your environment? And so that's what the strong method, in a short way of explaining it.
Well, I think you did a great job of explaining it. You're generous though, because when you say time, I think the minute I thought of it, I wanted it to have already happened yesterday.
Yeah. Yes.
And that same article I was reading says that it takes 66 days before our commitment will override our habits and our laziness or our wanting us to go back or whatever. So
Yes.
it takes 66 days before we're really getting on that roll, and then 90 days to set it. So I
That's
think
right.
it's interesting that you have time in there.
Mm.
Okay. So the men who returned from Vietnam were shamed, and from World War II were heroes. When you
Mm.
came back from Iraq, now a war vet, how were you welcomed?
You know, I deployed with the Oregon National Guard, and so I was in the Guard and I deployed, and it was incredible because Oregonians are very patriotic, and we first went to Washington State to what they call a time period, demobilization, where we get checked, we go through a bunch of things, and on our way down, we were in buses, and on our way down, as soon as we hit the Oregon border between Washington State and Oregon State, we were welcomed by the Oregon State Police, who escorted us and eventually escorted us all the way back to Bend, Oregon, where we were stationed, Central Oregon. And along the way, we had other motorcycle groups that supported veterans, escort us as well. And then we went through many different small towns. And I'm sure the newspapers or the public media let these people know that we were going to be going through, because it was a welcoming that you might have seen like in shows and movies and things, but that's exactly what happened. We went through these small towns, and we were there were signs welcoming us home. There were flags. There were kisses blown. There were just many things that were welcoming us as we went through the state of Oregon on our way to Bend, and received that welcoming in Bend as well. So, as a veteran, or as someone who was just going through that experience, it was very it was awesome to receive that welcoming home. So you're right, different generations receive different welcoming homes, but I think it was what we received was very welcoming, and it was phenomenal to receive that.
I am so happy to hear that. I bet that just brought tears to everybody on the bus.
it was it was an emotional experience for sure, and but to see that, and I knew I guess I consider myself an Oregonian. I'm not originally from there, but I had spent many years there, and just felt that overwhelming response from them, from many different towns, and it was a very welcoming experience, and I will always remember it. For the rest of my life, for all my life, because it was such an event, and it was they're expressing their support, and not only through Oregon, but also on our way back, because we landed at different places on our way back from Iraq. And I remember when we landed in Texas,
Texas is
they
great.
Yeah, yes, Texas is another very patriotic state. And when we walked in, they made an announcement over the intercom through the at the airport, and we went through this pathway that had glass windows, um, and everyone just stopped, and you could see everyone down at the bottom just clapping for us, and it was incredible. And I just wish every military service person received that. Unfortunately, like you mentioned, in Vietnam, it was different, but it was phenomenal to see how things have changed, and to have received that welcoming.
I am so delighted to hear that. I know that Texas does because I've lived in San Antonio. And did you know that George Bush W, as we call him, from Texas, often will go and greet the airplanes when they come in. He does it unannounced, and he'll come in and he greets many of the airplanes that are coming in with our returning soldiers.
Wow, excellent. Glad to hear that.
And he just shows up unannounced, and then all of a sudden you see all these pictures being on Facebook or whatnot. You know, wow, I got my picture taken with the ex-president. So regardless of how you feel about Bush, he does that. Well, we need to take our first break. You're listening to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You with Sharon Lynn Wyeth on an X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net. This show can also be heard on knowthename.com. And after the break, we'll hear how Anthony recovered from PTSD. So stay tuned.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
You have heard of the X-Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV. Plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
We live in rapidly shifting times of extreme volatility and uncertainty. Such profound change brings a unique opportunity for the evolution of consciousness. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, host of Mission Evolution Radio Show, a program that explores the latest scientific developments and deepening spiritual truths supporting human evolution. Join me on xzbn.net, where I interview leading experts in science, physics, medicine, spirituality, and more. By applying divergent viewpoints to leading-edge topics, we uncover expansive and evolutionary truth to assist you on your path to enlightenment. More information and past episodes are available at missionevolution.org.
Welcome back. I'm Sharon Lynn Wyeth, and you're listening to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You, which is being heard on xzbn.net and knowthename.com. Our guest tonight is Anthony Treas, a war vet who has developed a methodology to recover from getting PTSD. Now, his website is strongmencoaching.com. Again, Anthony's website is Strong Men Coaching, so that's plural. And women, you can peek at the website too. Okay, Anthony.
Yes.
Normally in the first segment, I interpret your name, but I was so interested in what you were saying that I didn't scoot that in there. So are you ready to have some of your name interpreted?
Absolutely.
Okay, so your name says that you're all about wanting to make the world a better place. That you have
great.
a practical, logical, deductive mind, that you can easily get around along with any group that you want to. The key is, do you want to get along with them? Also, that you're very competitive. It's an all or nothing. If you jump in, you're all in. Or you decide, hey, I'm not going to go there at all. So it's either all in or all out. And the only time we'd ever see you in the middle is when you're on your way up to the top. Your name also says that you have a lucky streak, that you can take risk and chances because somehow you'll always make lemonade out of lemons. Your name also indicates that you're a bit sensitive. You know, you may want to shut down and quit when criticized. That's one of the challenges, where you've had to learn how to do self-talk, and that you don't need to be the one in charge as long as the person who is in charge is competent. But if they're not competent, you want to take over.
Yes.
So that's some of what your name says.
Excellent. Thank you.
Uh-huh. So what's the biggest struggle that you've been seeing in men that they are having today?
You know, one of the struggles that I have come across often in working with men is their lack of, or their feeling of being of lack of fulfillment in their life. Some of them are successful. Some men are successful, but oftentimes the men that I've worked with really don't feel like they've accomplished much in their life, or just wanting to make a change in their life to feel more fulfilled. And so there is that struggle of not feeling like they've accomplished much, or just that fulfillment area in their life. They feel like they're doing okay, but this lack of fulfillment is really impacting other areas of their life.
Do you see that more in men of a certain age versus other ages?
You know, unfortunately, I don't see really a change. I think younger men are struggling with really in different areas. I think we do go through different areas of as we age and different times in our life, but I think more so after you're 30. But I am seeing a little younger in your mid to late 20s, where they feel like they ought to be doing something more than what they're doing right now, which is quite interesting. But oftentimes we would hear from more men that after 40 is where these feelings come from, that midlife crisis, so to speak. But I'm seeing it really through all ages, adults, mid 20s up into 40s that I've worked with.
You know, that was amazing. I was really expecting you to say, oh, yes, it happens during here. But to see that it happens all the way through, it's like, wow, that's an environmental pressure. So what 6 skills should every man possess to achieve strength and a sense of adventure and purpose? What should they all possess?
Yeah, and really those skills is the method. Going back to the S is knowing really, because there is the part where you're understanding your mind and your brain, but there are also 3 other questions that are very important that you must ask, and these are the skills, and these are the questions that each man and woman should ask themselves. It's really, what is it that you want, and to be as specific as possible. The more specific you can be, the better. So that's a skill in itself, where oftentimes people may say, I'd like to lose weight. And the thing is, that's not specific enough. And even losing weight could be muscle weight, body fat weight, those sorts of things. So being very specific on exactly what it is you want, that's a skill in itself. And because oftentimes people do struggle with that.
Okay, so wait a second. I want to pause there for a minute. So let's say somebody says, I want to lose 30 pounds. Mm-hmm. That's not specific enough. How should they say that?
Well, saying 30 pounds is specific, but they could go deeper. So saying 30 pounds of body fat would be good, and then would be better than just saying 30 pounds, because 30 pounds could just be anything, right? It could be water weight, it could be muscle, it could be body fat, it could be really anything. So saying 30 pounds is good, but also going a little bit deeper and saying 30 pounds of body fat would be even better than that.
Okay, got it. So I thank you. I wanted to give an example for everyone that's listening.
Yes, perfect.
Okay.
And then the other question is, why do you want it? And that's really coming to really exactly kind of knowing yourself, but it's a skill in a sense where it's like it's not you want something just to want it. It's really digging deep of why you want it, because in changing our life, you're going to go through, as I mentioned, some tough times, and your brain's not going to want you to change these things because it has you dialed in to where it's like, I don't have to work hard to keep you where I'm at. And you're going to be fighting your brain, and it's going to take those 60 to 90 days, that 90-day period, to really get you to forming a new habit. Well, before all those days up into that why is going to help you to get to that point. And if it's not a strong enough why, it's going to be a struggle. So really knowing, sticking with the losing weight theme here, why do you want to lose that weight? And really, and it needs to be strong enough. If it's not strong enough, it's not going to be supportive in you during that time period where you're going to need it most.
Now, I've seen a lot of people want to lose weight for somebody else because somebody else wants them different. And would that be a weaker reason than wanting to lose weight for yourself?
Absolutely. If you're trying to do something for someone else, now it's not as strong. Of course, if it's, it could be for someone else, meaning I want to lose 30 pounds so that I'm healthier and I decrease my risks for certain chronic diseases. Well, someone may say, I want to lose 30 pounds so I could be around for my children, and or for my spouse, that's for someone else. But if the stronger feeling, emotion is so that this person will love me, or if this person will like me more, then that's not a strong enough why, and that will only last a certain amount of time, very, very short amount of time.
Okay, well, that's a good thing to know. Okay.
Yes.
So,
the other question is why now? That I like to ask people is, why now? Why is this important for you? And that's also another important question to ask yourself, is why now? Because there are many times, and once again sticking with the weight loss theme, is they've attempted many times to lose weight, and why now? What makes this attempt or this desire right now, why is it different than any other time period? And so now that could be a little more where I just been recently diagnosed with pre-diabetes and I don't want to get full-blown diabetes. I've been recently diagnosed with certain chronic disease or certain, now is why I'm like more serious right now to do it than any other time. And so those three questions, and so that's kind of the first part, but also the other skills. So that would be skill number one, in asking those three questions. But as I mentioned, those skills are part of the ST.R.O.N.G method. And the T, as I mentioned, is being totally committed. And that is a skill. Oftentimes, many people will attempt to do something and they're not really committed. And one of the examples that I share with people is, just think of a time when you were on a team or in a relationship and you or the other person weren't totally committed in that relationship or in the team to win or accomplish a goal. How did that feel? It doesn't feel too well. If you're in a relationship and the other person isn't 100% committed, or on a team and someone's just not giving their full effort. So when your goal, how committed are you to your goal, and how can you imagine like how the things that would need to happen in order for you to accomplish that goal? How can that happen when that commitment isn't fully there? So that's a skill too.
When you're looking at a fully committed whatever, do you also address, these are the things that have caused me to fail in the past? Or do you consider, last time I got stuck here and what am I going to do this time differently? Is that part of being totally committed?
Absolutely. And those are life lessons, right? Those are lessons that hopefully we make note of those. And you're right. Oftentimes people will attempt to do things, certain things such as losing weight many times, and making that making note of what was done in the past and how it could be different this time. And so that is absolutely part of that.
So what's the real muscle that determines our strength?
That is our brain. The brain is a muscle that we must utilize. If you take any muscle in your body, and if you stop to utilize that, it will atrophy. And our brains, our programming, if you will, is set to what. And the way to know how your brain is set, like where it's at, and how is it programmed, and where is to look at your life. Look at your life and see what do you consistently see in your life, and that's your programming.
So we already need to take another break. You're listening to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You with Sharon Lynn Wyatt on an X-Zone Broadcast Network, XZBN. And this show can also be heard on knowthename.com. Now, this show tonight is dedicated to knowing how to find out how to get out of anxiety. So after the break, we're going to find out more about that. Stay tuned.
From our broadcast studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, to the world and beyond, you're watching the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
AVS Media.
You have heard of the X-Zone? Now watch it on SimulTV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is SimulTV. SimulTV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world, interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. SimulTV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have SimulTV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com.
Welcome back. I'm Sharon Lynn Wyeth, and you're listening to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You on xzbn.net. Our guest tonight is Anthony Treas, who can be reached via his website, strongmencoaching.com. Now, it's okay for women to look too, but it's strongmencoaching.com. So, Anthony, you were taking us through different steps before the break. And I'm just curious, how would you know if the decision that you're making is a beneficial one? Like maybe the person's too skinny and they want to lose weight because they're really anorexic. Okay, going along with that same theme. So how do you know if that's a good decision that you're making?
Yes, that's actually a really good question. The decision that you're making, one of the things oftentimes when someone is in a situation where they need to make a decision, and it's that anxiety that could come up, right? When you want to make a decision and you don't know if it's the right decision. One of the things is to really look at both sides of the decision, right? Because an indecision is also a decision, okay? But when you're trying to make the best decision for you, you really have to just take an honest assessment of what's the worst thing that can happen as a result of making that decision, and what's the best thing that can happen as a result from making that decision. And oftentimes we're afraid to make a decision, and that can cause a lot of anxiety because you want to make the right decision. We don't want to fail. We don't want to make the wrong one, in a sense. But once a decision is made, and you want to stick with it and make that decision, stick with it, and give it your best effort in whatever decision that you make. But ultimately, the way you know it's the right decision is you make that assessment. And once you make that decision to go with it, and as I mentioned, there are going to be times where this is how we learn, right? This is how we learn and we grow, and when we develop better ways of making decisions. But ultimately, a decision does need to be made, and the way to do that is to assess, make that honest assessment, make a decision, go with it full in, and be willing to learn from that decision as well.
You know, when I was bringing up my kiddos, I would say, what are all your choices that are laying out before you? And what do you think the natural consequences are going to be of each of these choices? What do you think will happen next if you do this? What do you think will happen next if you do that? And then I'd say, which of those consequences looks most inviting? And why don't we pick that choice and see how that one works?
That works too. That's great. I like that.
Okay, so Anthony, you've battled PTSD for quite some time. So, you know, and then you gained your life back. So what we all want to know is, first, to define PTSD, how you interpret that, because we hear that term all the time thrown around, and some of us may not know exactly what that means. Or better yet, since you're not a physician, tell us how PTSD affected you, like what symptoms you had, so that everybody can hear us, can better understand how soldiers that are coming back with PTSD, you know, how they're affected, and then tell us how you managed to deal with it so that it didn't haunt you anymore. I mean, how'd you manage to break it?
Yes. Well, I'll share by a story. And so you can, perhaps this will be a better way for me to explain what I went through in having PTSD, the post-traumatic stress disorder. And it could be different for a lot of people. But what happened to me was, upon my return home from my deployment to Iraq, one day I went to a shopping center, and I went and bought some clothes, and upon my exit of the building, walking over to my vehicle, I noticed a black garbage bag, and immediately it stopped me in my tracks. And the reason is because in Iraq, the enemy would utilize trash, black garbage bags, trash to hide IEDs. And so for my job wasn't necessarily to go and looking for IEDs, but we were always on high alert for these improvised explosive devices. And so when I came out of that building and I'm walking over to my truck, I see a black garbage bag. Now, this was in the evening. It was still sunny, but it was in later on in the day, and there was no cars around, and it seemed like it was just an odd scene because first off, how often have you seen a black garbage bag in a parking lot? And it wasn't like on the side or, it was literally in the middle of a parking spot right next to my truck. And there was no one on the left side of that garbage bag in the parking lot, and there was no one else, and there was no one in front of it, or vehicles. And it stopped me in my tracks. And I immediately hunker down and I immediately start scanning. Mind you, my heart is racing and I'm looking around. I'm looking for, my mind just goes back to being in Iraq. And I start looking at the rooftops. I start doing everything I was trained to do. But I'm hunkered down and I'm thinking, my heart's racing and I'm just looking at this black garbage bag. I'm looking at my vehicle. I'm assessing the scene. And this was for me very difficult because in other situations I'd be driving down the highway or the freeway and I'd see black garbage bags or trash on the side. It would immediately take me back to Iraq. Also, we would have to drive under bridges in Iraq, and our vehicle maneuvers was different every time we went underneath those overpasses because the enemy would try to lob either grenades or things into our vehicles. And so we had to do a certain maneuver every time we went underneath an overpass. Well, I live near an underpass. Where I lived at the time, I lived under an underpass. And so driving under an underpass, my heart would just start racing. I wouldn't even think about Iraq or just driving. My heart would just immediately just start, my mind, my brain would just take me back there. And so for me, I eventually knew I was having some issues. And not only that, I couldn't be around a lot of people. If I went into a restaurant, I had to know exactly where the exit was at. I had to have an exit plan, just a mental, like I'd go in there and like my back would be, I couldn't have my back towards the door. I had to know exactly where I was at. And oftentimes I wouldn't even tell anybody that I was kind of like doing an assessment already everywhere I would go. So I knew I was struggling with that, and then eventually got to the point where I isolated myself. I didn't really go out, and I only really shared this with one close friend of mine at the time, and to the full extent of really what I was experiencing. And so this is what I was experiencing, and for me, I didn't want to stay in that state. I didn't want to stay that way, and so luckily for me, I'd always been, for as long as I can remember, very fascinated with the human brain. And even before my deployment, I was already meditating and visualizing and doing these sorts of things. I was very open-minded to these things. So when I came back and I was beginning to struggle, and then eventually getting to the point where I wanted to change, I wanted to do whatever I could do to change, I looked into the brain. And that's really what changed my life, radically changing my life.
And the brain changed more than attitude? Or do you think it's a combination of both?
Well, what ended up happening is I eventually, I think there's a combination of both, but I think that with my brain and what ended up happening is I got my brain scanned, and I come to discover that I have very active areas of my brain that shouldn't be active at rest or during concentration. So what I end up having to do is since I realized that my brain was functioning this way, and it didn't make me a bad person, it didn't make me any bad, it was just, or any worse off than somebody else. It was just that, well, I guess in some ways I was worse off than someone else because oftentimes people don't have these very active areas in the brain. They're calm and collective, and for me, I wasn't that way. And so for my brain, it was causing me to be hyperactive and hyper alert. And so once I discovered this about myself, I was then able to change my brain by doing certain things, and also helping by taking supplements. Fortunately, I do fall under a category where I could take medication, but I definitely didn't want to go that route for several reasons. But luckily, there are natural supplements that I could take. and then also doing other things such as meditating and deep breathing exercises and other things that I utilize that have helped me to in dealing with these active areas of my brain.
You know, did you feel isolated in your recovery journey? I mean, your friends and family hadn't experienced PTSD, so they really couldn't identify with you or understand exactly what you were going through. So did that cause you to feel at all isolated as you were doing this by yourself?
Absolutely. And one of the biggest struggles is well, two things. One, you don't know to the full extent how much you can share with someone without thinking they're going to judge you. And then two, really kind of really feeling just a deep. I didn't feel good. The fact that I felt weak, I felt inefficient, I felt like it was overtaking my life, and so for me, I didn't feel good about it, and so I wanted.
So that's why you came up with the Strong Man. I love that acronym.
Yes.
To be strong. Well, we need to take our last break. Stay tuned to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You with Sharon Lynn Wyeth on the X-Zone Broadcast Network on xzbn.net and knowthename.com. Now, after the break, we're going to find out what Anthony Treas has in his name that has assisted him to be able to cope with all of this and break through and do what he's doing now, that you might also have in your name as well. Stay tuned.
Heard of the X-Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
The new nonfiction book, Razor of Madness, is similar to cult movies like Clockwork Orange, Dragon's Tattoo, or The Other Side of Hell. Wayne Morin Jr. and Thomas Lee Howe will expose widespread and systematic deficiencies in this thought-provoking tell-all novel. Mind control rages among scholars in law schools. Human rights are ignored while thought reform and mental manipulation are accepted practices used as behavior modification. Dr. Louis Jolyon West comes to mind. Media and public scrutiny shows that United States mental hospitals are in fact destructive murder industries. Razor of Madness expose novel details this epidemic through an in-depth professional and personal investigation. For decades, there has been a revolving door policy that still releases killers and pedophiles back into society. The maestro of mind control continues to haunt America to this very day. Razor of Madness is available in paperback or as a downloadable ebook at Amazon.com.
The concept of a new age has been around since the late 19th century, yet much of its original meaning has been lost. What exactly is the new age? Is it a religion, a collection of obscure esoteric practices, a series of doomsday predictions, or an astrological event? The New Age Chronicles is a unique complementary publication bringing reason and grounded information to separate fact from fiction. chock full of valuable information to support you as we make the monumental shift into the new era. You won't want to miss a single innovative issue. The New Age Chronicles newspaper is coming soon to www.newagechronicles.com.
Welcome back. I'm Sharon Lynn Wyeth, and you're listening to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You. Our guest tonight is Anthony Treas, whose website is strongmencoaching.com. Now, he's taken his ability to connect with others to a level where he's able to help others rid themselves of anxiety because of all that he's gone through as being a war vet. And I still smiling from the fact that you were greeted appropriately when you returned and that your entire busload was greeted appropriately.
Yes.
Did your beliefs or mindset need to shift very much from what you thought of and what you thought was important before the war to what you thought was important to after the war and able to heal?
Absolutely. For me, my life radically changed after I came back home from my deployment to Iraq, and it's a time period in my life that I will remember, all my life, because it is such a huge shift in my life. And so for me, coming back home, I think one of the things that helped me to recover is the fact that I was open to other modalities, other things that could potentially help me, such as meditating, such as visualization, such as just yoga, and just different other things that more people are accepting today as alternatives from medication and those sorts of things. So for me, my mindset was, I don't want to stay this way, but I do have a problem, and I do need help. I went to therapy for several years, and I think one of the best things that helped me was the fact that I come to understand about my brain. And that's why in the Strong Method, I really emphasize brain and brain health, because without your brain does everything. And when your brain isn't functioning optimally, you're going to struggle in certain areas. And it could be your thoughts. It could be your mind. Your thoughts can go on, and you have that struggle and that anxiety. And then it gets down to nutrition and how that can help as well. But for me, I wanted to get better. And I know, unfortunately, for a lot of veterans out there who are struggling, who are still struggling, and not to say for myself that I'm 100%, but there are some that are veterans that are still struggling that I hope can understand that you can do things to improve your life, and you can get back into the fight, so to speak, and living your life to the fullest. And for me, the reason why I've chosen specifically to work with men is only because I'm a man myself, and I can just relate with the lack of fulfillment. I could very much relate to that, the lack of struggling with anxiety and depression and PTSD, relate with other veterans. And so for me, and it's absolutely all this can work for women as well. But I just after I finished graduate school, I went into being a health educator up in Alaska, working with Alaskan natives, and there wasn't anything for men. And I saw how Alaskan men were struggling with depression, with suicide and alcoholism. And a lot of this, there's many reasons for it, for their struggle, but I saw that there was nothing specifically for men. And after I conducted a men's health workshop there with the men, they absolutely loved it and wanted more of it. And then I took my two passions, health and the brain, and the more I spoke with men, the more I knew there was a huge need, and that's where I end up coaching specifically men in this area.
Well, I just think it's wonderfully that you're coaching men, because often I have seen women get together and do support groups, and it just seems to me like it's a recent thing in later years that men have been getting together to do that, and I think that's so healthy. And I also love the fact that you meditated, since I've been a meditator since I was 18. And I always think, that is just something that everybody should learn how to do, just like brushing your teeth and eating and, all of the rest of that. It's just
Yes.
a regular thing that would be good.
Yes.
So you have a quote on your website, strongmencoaching.com, and it says, "What is wealth without the mental well-being to enjoy it?" So could you tell me a little more about how you came up with this quote?
Yeah, I mean, we oftentimes we look at success being, financial success or really a lot, success and what that really entails. But what is all that without your health and mental well-being? Oftentimes we neglect our health, and I think it is a societal thing as well, where we don't look at our health. We all, we breathe naturally. We get hungry, so we eat and we drink. And as long as we're alive and kicking, we don't think oftentimes about the nutrition that we're giving ourselves, or the drink that we're giving ourselves, and our environment and the foods that we eat. And so
we're just taking our health for granted.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, we don't look, we don't do anything about it until something does hit us, right? And I know, and I've spoken to many people where people aren't interested in prevention. The unfortunate thing is we as people we don't think of it. And I think if we weren't necessarily forced to, I mean, it's a great idea to purchase some vehicle insurance, right? We're like forced to do that, or to have a vehicle, but it's a good thing to have, right? But we don't necessarily think of having this quote unquote like health insurance in the sense where you're taking an active role in your health and mental well-being. So what is, having all the money if you don't have the health and the mental well-being to enjoy it? Because that's what we're doing, right? When we do go to work to earn money so that we can buy the things that we would like and enjoy, and to feed ourselves and those sorts of things. But you can have all the money, but if you're sick, you can't do it. I remember a thing came out one time, and I made note of this. There was a famous singer. He had a concert, but he had to cancel it because he was sick, right? It didn't matter how much money he has or how famous he is. He had to cancel because he was sick, right? And so just like for us, or for really anybody, he can have all the money in the world, but when you're sick, and we've all been sick before, right? And so when you're in that way, you would do anything so that you wouldn't be sick. It's being sick is horrible. And no one wants to ever be in that state, but we don't necessarily think about taking care of ourselves so that we can prevent from ever feeling that way, But
in Spain, they have this saying that everybody knows. When people sneeze, they always say, "Go for 3," because with the first one, you get health. With the second sneeze, they wish you wealth. And the third one, then you get happiness. Because they say that if you don't have health, the reason it's number one is that you spend all your wealth trying to get your health. And so you've got to have your health first, and then you can have your wealth. But when you have both in balance, that's what causes the happiness. So it's really interesting, because you can hear everybody saying the words for health and wealth and then happiness as you're sneezing. And if people stop it too, they're always going, "Come on, give us a third."
That's good. That's excellent.
So is there anything else that you're currently working on that you'd like to share with us?
Right now I'm really just working on, one of the things that I'm working on is developing a men's adventure trip. I think oftentimes men are neglecting that adventurous side in them. And so to help rejuvenate, help them kind of get back on track, because I think when a man is fulfilled and he feels like he's living his life, he is a better husband, he is a better father, he's a better friend, and he's a better business owner, right? When he feels like he's living his life to the fullest. And so one of the things that I'm working on right now is developing a men's adventure trip around the world, different places around the world. So,
well, I want to volunteer Costa Rica for you.
Yeah. Yeah, Costa Rica may be
Because
another
that's-
one. Yes. Yes.
You know, I mean, I just, and then in Thailand too, you can
Yes.
go canoeing and bamboo shooting down the rivers, and you can ride the elephants, and you can go hiking. And anyway,
Yes.
you can do all of that too in Costa Rica. Anthony, this time went way too fast with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sharon. It's been a pleasure and an honor, and I'm so thankful for it. Thank you.
Oh, our pleasure. Be prepared and surprised and pleased when you experience Anthony's Treas work. His website again is strongmencoaching.com. Now, Anthony's name indicated that he excelled at logical and deductive reasoning. Now, this is found in the letter combination O-N. It has to be an O followed by an N, and both together. So if your name has the consonant cluster O-N anywhere in your first or middle names, you too have this ability to be very logical and have deductive reasoning. Do you know where your genius lies? Now, I'm Sharon Lynn Wyeth, host of this radio show, Know the Name, Know the Genius in You, which is heard every weekday at various hours right here on xzbn.net radio, which is an X-Zone radio station, and also on my website, knowthename.com. Now, you want to tune in each week to hear the fascinating ways other people have discovered the genius in themselves and what they were able to accomplish. And in every show, you'll continue to hear clues on how you can recognize your own innate genius. And for all the days and times of Know the Name, Know the Genius in You, go to www.xzbn.net and check out our broadcast schedule. And if you wish to know how to read a person's name or more about your own name and how you can discover your innate genius, visit the website knowthename.com and give yourself the gift of a session to find out what your name says about you. You're listening to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You with Sharon Lynn Wyeth. So this is Sharon Lynn Wyeth signing off.
Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com. Are you or is someone you know struggling with addictions, depression, anxiety, relationships, low self-esteem, lack of confidence, grief, success, and prosperity? Do you know that your subconscious belief plays a big role in the outcome of your hard work? We can help you permanently change the beliefs that may be the reason for your struggles and failures. We care about getting you the return on your investment and the results you are looking for. We can help you be free of the limitations of your past and in realizing your highest potential. We work with people by phone and Skype. For more information, visit us at www.ritasoman.com. That's www.ritasoman.com. Do you think you have energy problems in your home? Do you feel better when you're away than when you're home? Joey Korn is a global leader in the world of dowsing who specializes in personal energy clearing and space clearing. He can help you create an ideal energy environment in your home no matter where you live in the world. Learn about his remote spiritual house cleaning services and much more at www.dowsers.com. You can get Joey's book, Dowsing, A Path to Enlightenment, as well as other dowsing books and tools, Kabbalah books, and Walter Russell books. Joey's work is really amazing. Go to dowsers.com right now. That's DOWSERS.com or call 1-877-DOWSING. That's 1-877-369-7464.